arguably one of the biggest political punk bands in the world, released their first song in 8 years. And guess what? They're from Winnipeg. I went down to Propagandhi's jam space to talk about the new song, their upcoming album, and the state of worldly affairs. You just wrote the song At Peace, and it's your first song you've released in 8 years. What was the writing process like for that song?
You know, like Chris and I, you know, like we pick each other up, start talking about everything that's bothering us, get here, see Jord, start it all over again right where we started, you know what I mean? Then everyone's all amped up, and then we start practicing, you know, and the ideas start going around, and then stuff starts showing up in lyrics, you know, and like you can see yourself, like I can see like us reflected in Chris's lyrics, he could probably see himself reflected in my lyrics. And
like if there was a formula or something, it'd be so much easier, but it's just everything's such a struggle for us. Like we have to struggle against our own musical inability and our own inability to string words together and even probably spell or use punctuation to get to where we want to go. By the time you're done, you have no idea how you got there.
Maybe not quite thriving, but a buoyant, higher at peace.
How then have you changed as a band in the last 8 years?
Well, the ravages of time.
Yeah.
On us.
Yeah, I mean, we've aged quite a bit,
yeah.
And it has repercussions.
After a bunch of decades of that wear and tear, I kind of went backwards and then sort of reevaluated, okay, lighter is maybe okay, like, you know, make things less enduring on the body and then it's less enduring on the mind.
I think we've always had this tendency to ratchet up the speed even when it wasn't necessary, just to impart this sense of energy and power that appeals to us, mostly because of the music we grew up on. But on this record, I felt like we were consciously trying to let's dial it back and then maybe dial it back even more out of our comfort zone and see what we could do.
How does your music reflect today's political climate?
Maybe it less reflects like a current political climate and more it's like the psychology represented on the record is a product of an ongoing political climate that's been going on since we've become aware of how the world actually works and going back hundreds and hundreds of years.
The idea of how using art and music as a form of resistance in today's, day and age, why is that so important to do?
hopefully it inspires somebody to get involved in their community or go do something about it, or even just pick up someone's spirit somewhere if they're feeling like they're giving up or.
You have to figure out how to live a somewhat meaningful life. I find living under the current system we've been born into pretty humiliating. You have to find some hope or purpose in a world that's so chaotic and currently on such a downswing that it's very hard to know what to do. Ultimately, that's what we've always done.
How does then music help those situations if it does that at all?
I think the reaction so far to the song At Peace, there has been like a sense that people are seeing themselves in the song in terms of the psychic toll that world events have taken on them. And sometimes just hearing somebody put your internal chaotic thoughts into words that resonate, you just get this little lift, just knowing that somebody else is seeing the world for what it is instead of the world for what it isn't.
How do you navigate this world where you have corporate interests into the music and stuff?
It's very difficult because those companies have essentially won, and there's no real viable underground sort of alternate sort of routes that you can go and just plug yourself into. And we're at the point where we're above ground, everything that we do, and so it's very tricky. And I think we're just trying to figure out the least crappy ways to kind of move ourselves ahead.
Why do you think a punk band from Manitoba has had such a big global reach?
I think being from Winnipeg is more about not being from Southern California than anything else. It's just the way people approach things here in general, at least in the music scene, how we came up Winnipeg, people were not really looking to stomp on each other to climb the ladder. They're just playing music for the pleasure of the endeavor.
Our goal is to spread empathy of some kind. That's the goal, I think, since the start of the whole thing. That's what it's about, you know? It's not just for the sake of like, I'm a punk, you know, let's all be united, you know what I mean? Like, I don't need to be united with punks and stuff. I just, if there's someone thoughtful, it doesn't matter who they are, you know?
If there's one thing Propagandhi can do, it's amp up their listeners with their songs and riffs. From an undisclosed jam spot in Winnipeg, Jim Agapito, CBC News.